Good morning. Welcome to Viewpoint, your program of personalities, politicians, and perspectives. In the interest of keeping our license from the Federal Communications Department, we will avoid talking about politicians this morning because I might get carried away and say something nasty about them. So, in any event, we have certainly a well-known personality this morning with whom we want to share some airtime with. We always start, if you'll remember, we always try to start Viewpoint with a kudo or two. I'd like to take my hat off and salute the veterans who went around to the various veterans' graves all around the county and made sure that we had flags at their grave sites. A lot of work involved there. And as I made my annual cemetery run for Memorial Day, I reflected upon all the time that it took those veterans to do that. So salute to all the veterans. And a particular note, don't get your nose out of joint now with the VFW and the Legion, but the Marine Corps League has done a tremendous job for us there where Gene and I live at the Christian Village. And so extra salute to them. Now, let's get right down to serious business, if that wasn't serious enough.
That was very serious.
Okay.
Very serious. Nice job. Yeah. Today, our guest is Dr. Dennis Campbell, and he has been with Lincoln College for a bit, and now he's kind of an almost Lincoln College. He still has Creekside. School is like out. Summer is like here. And you know what a wonderful place to take your kids or grandkids or great-grandkids as a learning experience in all sorts of ways. Dr. Campbell, you love that, don't you?
Well, that's his baby.
Well, thank you. Yes, in fact, people criticize me thinking that that is my baby, and but it's my hobby. I've somehow made it a bit of a profession after my retirement from Lincoln College as a professor for 25 years. Now I've had a few more years to be what I just call a caretaker versus being director. I just love being out there. Thank you for recognizing. Now, you were listening how good it is for everyone. It's also great for pets. Now, cats don't come back when you release them from the leash, but dogs and some other, you're welcome to bring a dog out there. But we say you must keep it under control, and I say verbal control so it doesn't attack people. Yes, we're finding that even in these COVID conditions that people find it a bit of a respite being able to get out, a refuge.
Well, you know, even with the COVID restrictions, you can be compliant and be at Creekside very easily because you don't have to get in anybody's face. Well,
and I'm very proud of our president, Dr. Gerlach of the college, when he was hit with making some very important decisions about keeping our campus safe. Restricted all activities and all facilities to just the college and keeping the community. And he came to me and asked what would be my opinion about keeping Creekside open. And so I was very proud that he asked that because I, like you, Judy, saw that one can still be socially distant. I would do a little bit more effort of sanitizing our porta potties out there and any tables that I thought was being used. But I think people appreciated being able to, I know other options. Kickapoo Creek Park is popular. Madigan State Park had visitors, but we had our fair share of quite a few people that visited.
Well, you know, we're very fortunate here in Lincoln. I never cease to be amazed at the things that this community has to offer its residents. We're not exactly a metropolitan area, don't you know?
You noticed that?
Yeah, I know. I came here from Minneapolis. It's a little town up a little north of here. And
I recognize that when you said, don't you know?
Don't you know?
But we've got lots of opportunities and lots of things here that you wouldn't really expect to find in a community this size.
I call it a hidden gem. We have quite a few in the county. in central Illinois in particular. I happen to live in Springfield, but Lincoln is my adopted town since I've been
Yeah.
coming here almost every day for the last 28 years. But it's a hidden gem. We don't have a lot of advertisement of where it is, but occasionally we'll have some significant thing get discovered, or somebody sees the importance of scientifically or educationally or even recreationally, and then people discover it.
I hate to mention the fact that, believe it or not, we might find a listener or two out there who never heard of Creekside. They want to know what we're talking about, you know?
Well,
so
that's
let's
true.
go back to the beginning and let's talk about how Creekside evolved. 648-5510. Now, if anybody has any questions of Dr. Dennis Campbell, don't hesitate. He's an easy fellow to talk with. And, even if you might disagree with him, you'll still find him a very nice man. So don't talk politics with him, though.
Oh, my gosh.
No, seriously, Doctor, Creekside has become a real important part of our little community here, part of the college family. Let's go back to how Creekside began to get its fame.
Aren't you clever, Bill? Because we're going back to the Bill Gossett years. We're going back to 2010. Bill Gossett and faculty members and staff members and some students and some local folks met me out there, and my wife came along as well. And I had just had an acre of land turned over to me. It was not the best farming land in the middle of
WBN. Program, of course, is Viewpoint, airing each Wednesday morning, 8:15 to 0900 hours. Our guest this morning, Dr. Dennis Campbell. And I mean this very respectfully, Doctor. I'm not trying to stroke you. It's a lucky thing we had you on campus for the years that we had. I'm certain that the students in Dr. Campbell's classes, for the most part, not everyone, obviously,
Let's not
but
ask them.
they had a good draw when they drew Dr. Campbell as their instructor. I'd like to think about kudos to the service organizations, Rotary.
Oh, good.
Rotary International, of which Dr. Campbell is now president, did a lot of hard work out there, backbreaking work.
Oh,
So
yes.
tell us a little bit about what Rotary's done out there, Doctor.
Well, for those who do not know Rotary, and if you do not know Rotary, you haven't been keeping your eye to the paper, because I have a famous Rotarian right here in front of me, Bill, who has been a past president, who's done marvelous work for us and is in the news constantly. We've had other Rotarians.
My brother believes everything you say.
Yes. Well, we've even had a Rotarian, Kirby Rogers, that was the Courier's
Man of the
Citizen
Month.
of the Month
Yeah,
just
that's right.
recently. And we've had great fundraisers that have been organized by Don Jordan, our citrus, and Don Peasley, who worked with our chicken dinners. We've had Steve Shoemaker that did a rose. We've done some fundraising, but it's the money that goes into the community, goes into scholarships and goes into support of a lot of wonderful things, especially in the last couple of years. Well, even I think we're coming up very close to our 100th year anniversary of Rotary, of this club at Rotary. It'll be year 2025 would be 100 years. But they also do sweat. They do pain and
Hands and knees work.
They do,
Yeah.
and they kind of adopted me quite a few years ago when I had this thought for Creekside, and they supported me with labor, money, a grant to put in an insectarium that's been real popular because we raised monarch butterflies. We tagged 60 monarch butterflies from that insectarium, tag them, and then release them in a monarch watch program. But 2 years ago, we raised 400 monarch butterflies from that same insectarium, and we also have many other species. But they were responsible for putting it up and providing the money for it. We put in boardwalk. We have over about 1,500 feet of a boardwalk. It's kind of embarrassing. You can come out to a nature center and not even touch nature because we have a boardwalk that allows you
And
to
us hands and
easily-
knees work on the part of Rotarians to put
hands
that
and
boardwalk
knees,
down.
they're hard workers, and they've even proposed to me 2 days ago that they want to come out and replace some boards, so they keep an eye on it.
Now let's go to your insectarium for just a jiffy.
Okay, let's go.
It's pretty hard to imagine the thing as fragile as a butterfly can fly across the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, yeah.
But that in fact is what takes place when they migrate. Am I correct in that?
One brood of the monarch does. We'll go through about 3-4 generations right here in central Illinois, and the genetics tell them don't leave for Mexico, just stay here, reproduce, and have some offspring. And so that goes about 3 generations of monarchs.
Now, don't those little boogers have a difficult time flying when you attach a tag to their wings?
Wouldn't that that would be my first
What do you do?
thought.
Just staple a tag on there?
Yeah, they're dragging this metal plate. No, they're very small stickers that are designed for the type of sticking mechanism that'll stick to. We don't put it just on the scales of the butterfly. There's a very specific place in their hind wing that it has to cross a couple of veins, which is the hardened little lines that you see in the wing of a butterfly. And you press down a little bit, but you don't press it too hard. We're trained on how to hold the butterfly. So I used to be amazed at how people banned birds, but these are stickers that go on, And the butterflies, when we release them, we've got to make sure that they can go up into the air, and they do.
Now, this is Honest Injun, folks. He's not concocting stories here for us. They actually, we all know about banding birds. Banding butterfly, that's pretty delicate stuff.
And there's a lot of information on that tiny little tag, too.
Oh, I'd want to spend a lot of time on that.
The contact email address, not for us, but for the international organization, Monarch Watch, our individual number that is on there, and they hire people in the mountains of central Mexico, where these butterflies are migrating to. They hire people to look for butterflies with tags that when they die, they pick up the dead bodies.
You know, what kind of luck do you have getting a response from people? And what kind of results of their finding your butterflies have you had?
Low probability, Judy. This is more of a publicity awareness program. We're losing the food source for monarchs, therefore we might lose monarchs. So milkweeds have never had a good reputation, agricultural weed. So we're doing this not necessarily in assuring that of the, let's say we did 100 tagging, we're not likely to get a result back from one of ours, but we may. But if we can get 1,000 people doing 100,
yes,
then we start improving the opportunity to get a few of the butterflies to their final destination. But these butterflies are not particularly tasty. Some of you know that they have a cardiac glycoside in them, that the bright colors keeps birds, they recognize as, oh, that's not a tasty thing because I throw up every time I eat one of those. So they avoid them. And they avoid the caterpillars as well that are brightly colored. But there's a lot of weather, environmental circumstances that these butterflies got to fight through. To be honest with you, in the 2 years, we have not had a positive tag delivery back to us to tell us that one made it there.
But still you persist.
Others in this area, in
648
central Illinois.
5510. 648-5510. Our guest this morning, Dr. Dennis Campbell, who delves into the esoteric once in a while.
All the time.
This morning being a case in point. Who in the world collects butterflies? So tell us a little bit about this insectarium, because that's an important part of Creekside, and how that evolved, and what is an insectarium?
Oh, well, that's a Pana community has a thing called the Prairie Butterfly House. Now, I don't call ours a butterfly house. It's an insectarium because we have just as many things in there that eats butterflies as we have butterflies. But when I visited Pana, they had just recently from Farm Tech, a corporation, bought a screened hoop. It's called a high tunnel, and they've had great success in displaying their all kinds of species of butterflies. You plant inside there the types of nectar feeding for the adults, the type of foliage for the caterpillars. So this was just seeing that, I said, well, we can do that right next to the Bill and Jean Gossett, tallgrass prairie, right there at Creekside. We have a bit of the prairie inside this Quonset hut that's about 75 feet long, about 40 feet wide, 15 feet tall, and we grow prairie plants in there. But we also grow ornamental plants and vegetables. I think back to being a kid in East Texas, any vegetable that my mother would say, we got to kill the bugs on it. Well, we provide those vegetables in there to have the bugs feed on it. So it's vegetables for bugs, not for humans. We have all kind of nectar, even zinnias that are fall ornamental flowers that provide nectar, but a lot of native plants are in there, a lot of milkweeds, different varieties of milkweeds, and we invite the local people we provide nets. There are probably 7 or 8 nets sitting right in front of our insectarium right now. Local people will come and borrow the nets, go out and catch things. There's some restrictions. We don't want bees and wasps in there. I'd rather them not bring in snakes, even though I like snakes. Other people don't necessarily like snakes. We don't want birds in there, but we got toads. We got a turtle occasionally in a small little pond in there. But every type of insect you can have ever seen is probably going to be in that insectarium this year at some time. And they live and die. They reproduce because they got food and feed, and those babies can, especially in butterflies, grow up if they have their food plants. So it's fun. It's not right now. We've had a weird spring. It's been a bit cold, and it's been a bit wet, and been a bit windy. And so it's a little bit late in going with the insects, but boy, it's filled with plants already. They've grown up in there.
Now, how do the insects get in there? Do you put them in there?
We do. We catch them. Whenever I'm an old man walking around with a butterfly net, that scares people away. I remember with a world famous dragonfly expert down in Gluckanda, Illinois, here's 3 adults running around with insect nets catching dragonflies right in the midst of a motorcycle gang, a picnic. So you have to be a bit brave sometimes in your life. But I run around with a net. My grandchildren run around with a net. My children used to run around with a net.
My wife does that at my house sometimes. But she's not looking for the bugs.
But the local kids love coming out there and catching things.
648-5510, Dr. Dennis Campbell. You might have, listen, he's done a great job up there at Creekside, folks. And by the way, the public is invited to go out there as long as they behave themselves and don't litter. Would that be the essence of it?
Yes. We say dawn to dusk every day of the year. Sometimes the snow closes that entry road. But I kind of like after dusk. We have a fire pit that a grandson and I put in many years ago, or a few years ago, and feel free to have an evening stargazing. We've had some stargazing parties out there. You can use the facilities even in the evenings. Just be aware that the local sheriff will pull up. They can see the lights from a county road pretty far away.
Yes.
Just remember to say Campbell gave you permission. So and everybody's happy when they hear Campbell gave permission. But yes, we'd rather not have hoodlums and yahoos and people who don't appreciate.
Let's go back to Judd just a minute. That tusk is on display at the McKinstry Library. Public's invited to take a look at it. Oh, and I might say, as you walk out the door, throw an extra 5 or 10 on the counter for the librarian and tell them that that's for the Creekside project. You don't have to do that, but it'd be nice.
Now I have to give Bill $20 for saying this.
We're the community, not just the college, but the community is lucky to have this facility. Number one, we're lucky to have the college where it is. Just speaking economically, you talk about money. The college has a huge economic impact in our community, and so we're been proud to have that down through the years. When I think about that, as I'm sitting here blabbing on, my father attended there in 1919. I'm told that he was on the last football team they had at Lincoln College.
And Bill attended in 1943.
Yeah, I left there.
45.
40. Yeah. Well, I was in that class, but then I went to university, which wasn't the greatest decision I ever made, and then went into the Air Corps, which was not a bad decision at all. It was a good decision. So.
I want to get back to Bill. Bill is going to talk more and more about the college. Yes, I'm very. I wanted to have a job there for a year, and Tom Zerkhammer offered me that job, and they couldn't get rid of me, so I stayed there for over 25 years. But
and that's been a good
Bill
thing.
is you can't believe, you got to see Bill with our students there at the campus. He gets with the students, asks them personal information, talks about why they came and would want to be there, and that's what I saw when he was walking around sowing seeds in our prairie. And I've watched him all over the years. he's a great supporter of not only the radio station there, but our Heritage Museum that's world class there on the campus. And certainly Creekside is appreciative of the things that he's done for us.
Yeah, speaking of radio, Mr. Ash, John Malone has done a nice job at Lincoln College.
Has he
not?
not?
Not in competition with WLCN at all. Created some good kids in that radio in the communication department. John's done a great job for us there.
Well, he has. You need to talk more about John, because he's our recent. I was fortunate to be a full professor, their first that they had there, and John has carried on that tradition, got a PhD, is now a full professor, and but we got more people. Olivia Parto, the new director of the Heritage Museum, and Ron Keller, a book author, one of the teachers of the year, Eric Grunder, all kinds of people that are there, and we got new, not only associate's degrees, but we've got bachelor's degree, even master's degree. And I understand that we had a graduate of our associate arts degree 2 years ago, and within a year got a doctorate.
Really?
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Totally.
It was Bill Gossett.
Oh, gosh.
At 97, he went back and got an associate's degree, and in a blink of an eye, he received a doctorate of humane letters. Not just any letters, humane letters from our college. So isn't that amazing? I'm turning the tables on Bill. He should be interviewed, not me.
I'm glad you are. He deserves it.
Greg says, my son Greg up in Canton, what do you mean humane? You were never humane to me.
Oh, he's been humane to our students in our campus. And Jean has too. I mean, what a great.
Yes, I want to bring,
parents.
I think while you're banning my name about it, I think we should bring the other half in there, because she's been just as supportive, if not more so.
She has.
Dr. Campbell, how long have you been with Lincoln College, sir?
Since 93, January of 93. So I and again took a 1-year part-time job that just got extended and extended and extended. I've been able to do other things. I've done some adjunct work with other colleges, believe it or not, and I'm an adjunct curator with the State Museum. I left the State Museum to come to Lincoln College. Because it was just too hard work at that State Museum. And so I've just enjoyed the heck out of myself with the type of students that we get at Lincoln.
Speaking of your having done other things, if I may, I'd like to talk with you. I'd like to listen to you talk about your experiences when you taught for a bit in China.
Well, I've taken advantage of any opportunity to do these things.
No, it's not taking advantage. That's just that's personal and professional advancement.
Well, that's true.
That's what that is. It's not taking
world.
advantage. It's professional advancement.
Well, thank you.
How were you received? How were you treated? How did you feel about the people?
Well, now China is just a marvelous opportunity. But in my mind, and this was back in 2000 now, growing up in East Texas and going to a couple of degrees, and then I was drafted into the Army. I knew that you were in the Army Air Corps, but drafted in the Army, coming back out of that, I wanted to get as far away from Texas as possible. So I moved to Australia and lived there for 7 years.
Quite a ride.
And so I've always, that was my introduction to being a citizen of the world. So since then, I've taken the opportunity whenever I could travel, and my family has been supportive. And now that with grandchildren, I'd rather stay home. But the China opportunity, working with a Lincoln Land Community College professor there, taking some students over to China and meeting up with Chinese students and going around to several different places. My vision of China was the Mao uniform of gray, and they were the most modern society I'd ever seen. They skipped the telephone era and went straight to cell phones. So walking along the Great Wall of China and everybody having a cell phone was almost a disappointment to me, because I wanted to see the communist Chinese look.
Yeah.
But they're very, they received the students all want to come to the United States, so they're very kind to their professors. They all want to do the best step forward, and they want to do well by the government, because a lot of their perks in life has to come with being a good Communist Party member. But it was fun. Needing interpreters, and the students were learning English. You have to take English in college there, which is interesting.
And by the way, when we had those youngsters on campus
aren't
here,
they great?
I thought that was, from my standpoint, I thought it was quite successful. From an educator standpoint, would you agree?
Oh, it was. There were not only wonderful professors and students, but they've opened the door for Lincoln College. I could probably list 8 or 9 countries that we have students at Lincoln College, from African, Tanzania, and Nigeria to South Korea to Italy and UK and I'm missing out on all of the other students there, but we have a great international program there at Lincoln College, and a lot of it came from.
And that bodes well for our local students. Let's say the kids from Lincoln, Illinois, or Logan County, who are our students at Lincoln College. They're having an international experience of some sort.
Yes. And bringing students from Chicago area. I always thought it would be great in my classes to have a cultural exchange between the local community students, introducing the Chicago students, and then the Chicago to the environment here, and then getting on a bus, taking them to Chicago, and have the Chicago students introducing them to that environment. Lincoln College is a melting pot.
And what would Mary Whitehead think of that? Lighthouse.
I would, in fact, I like the Hawaiian tradition of saying we're not a melting pot, we're a salad. So I think that's so all of the individual tastes are still there. They're just not homogenized. And I think that's what Lincoln College is, a lot of individual tastes, from athletes to academics and different regions. I'm very proud of Lincoln College, and I was very lucky to end up there. And it's opened up other doors.
Well, as I've talked before, openly and happily, one of the nice traditions that we have had down through the years since I've been exposed to Lincoln College as a trustee and going forward, at the commencement time, the instructors kind of get together and they have a little goodbye for their graduating students, and it's a nice thing that they do. And there's some remarks are made, extemporaneous remarks and so forth, on behalf of some of the professors out there. And I use the term cookie cutter expressions. They don't use cookie cutter expressions. What they say to these kids comes from inside, comes from their heart. So it tells me the kind of the ownership of our teaching group there at Lincoln College. They're just not up there to perform a job and get their check and go home. They're interested in these kids, and they show that by their dedication and their desire to give of their time to help kids who might be having a little difficult time.
And you're absolutely right. We've seen all educational in this COVID conditions, how the educators have stepped up and how valuable they are. Yes, first responders and medical professions and police and fire person, but teachers at the college level all the way down to preschool just need to be congratulated for their devotion to people.
Yeah, that's the right word, devotion. You kind of stand on the sidelines and watch our professors communicate with our kids, and you can tell it's really coming from the inside. It's not a perfunctory statement.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's not a lucrative profession as well.
Well, no.
And so one gives up a bit of the financial security for an emotional security that you're contributing to society. And I miss that. Judy had asked me before air about whether I miss teaching, and I do. I miss that contact. But
you miss your kids is what you miss.
That's true.
Yeah.
But nature is a pretty good replacement for me. I happen to find a little bit of joy in both education and environment.
Well, you've certainly done something with and for the environment and kids, bringing all of that together. I'm sure that a kid who gets involved with you out at Creekside, in the years that go by as he looks back, I'm sure he's very grateful for that having happened.
Some maybe, others are gritting their teeth when they hear my name. But I usually tell my students to find 3 passions and make a life out of it. So part of it could be a paid life. Other parts of it would be, what are you going to do vocationally outside of your profession? But my 3 passions have worked out real well for me in my life.
Well, and thereby working out for others.
Oh, yes.
Because of your passion for them. Mm-hmm.
Doctor, we've mentioned Creekside, and somebody said, well, where in the world is that, and where is Creekside? We might have a caller here, in which case you'll put your headset on to find out what...
Go 4 miles north.
Yeah, there we go. Judith K., you go right ahead. I'll try this one. Go right ahead, please, caller.
Yes, we've heard a lot about the programs Dr. Campbell administers, but I heard he rubbed elbows with some pretty famous people when he was back in Texas in school. Could he maybe talk about those?
Oh my gosh, I think we got a plant here. I even recognize a voice.
Not a plant. I'm actually
Go right ahead,
animal.
sir.
I'll hang up and listen.
Okay.
My hearing failed me again, so I missed it.
I make up all kind of things in my life, but one of them was what's referring to is that a classmate of the largest high school in the nation I graduated from, the largest graduating class in the nation at the time.
Secondary level.
At the secondary level. So we were just numbers. And there in that same school was a fellow by the name of Michael Aday. Now, nobody knows who he is because he changed his name to Meatloaf. So every time I see the album Bad Outta Hell or I hear some of the other types of songs, I think of a chubby younger guy in my high school that I think a coach stepped on his he stepped on a coach's foot once in football, and the coach said, "Get off my foot, you meatloaf," and that name stayed with him.
Is that really the story?
Yeah.
Upon
Well,
my
that's
word.
one of the 100 that you can find.
Yeah.
And then, yes, when you're old, you run across people here and there. But I've been a driver of some wonderful people of the world. Somebody might know that David Attenborough, when he came to Australia,
real scientist.
I was assigned to him to drive him around Sydney, and then my wife invited Jean-Michel Cousteau to be a speaker at Lincoln Land when she worked there, and I got to be his driver. So yes, one accidentally falls into place in meeting people.
Well, thank goodness for your driver's license, huh?
That's
Our guest
right.
this morning, Dr. Dennis Campbell. We appreciate your time this morning, Doctor. We've
Well,
run out
thank
of
you,
time,
guys.
of course. By the way, folks, if you have an extra nickel or two, donate it to Lincoln College, or talk to your funeral director and maybe make that part of your lasting, everlasting
Let's
heritage.
don't think about that.
Tell them you want to donate to Creekside. Thank you very much for Viewpoint.
Oh, you guys are my favorite people. I come here anytime to talk about anything.
Thank you, Dennis.